Welcome back to another episode of Tech Girl Magic. I'm your host, Alana, the Tech Girl Magic. For those of you who don't know, I'm a Stanford Computer Science alum and senior software engineer with previous experience at Apple, Slack, LinkedIn. You can kind of think of me as like your friendly neighborhood software engineer with tons of really good experience and a pretty awesome pedigree. Okay, so in this episode, what I really want to talk about is startups. And I thought I would take the opportunity to give some of my best advice about joining startups. Don't. Man, I think I'm pretty good at this YouTube thing. What do y'all think? Okay, so my first problem with startups is that you literally work day in and day out, like trading your life away for the survival of this company in the hopes of possibly someday getting rich when the company ends up getting acquired or ends up going public, when the reality is your stock options, which are, the main lever that would ever allow you to get rich working for a startup, are probably going to be absolutely worthless. Even the simple act of understanding your compensation at startups is actually extraordinarily complicated. And it's so complicated that if you Google it, you'll end up finding like pages and pages of guides trying to explain to you how to understand your stock options and how to understand and value your startup compensation, because it actually doesn't make literally any sense. Okay, and for those of you who haven't, done the research or taken the time to really deeply understand how startup options work, etc., don't worry, I got your back. So the TLDR of startup options is this: 70% chance, approximately, roughly, your startup options are going to be completely worthless, and you will have worked your tail off for a company just for the company to inevitably fail or fire you, or you leave the company with, absolutely nothing. Okay. And then after that, there's maybe like a 25%-ish chance that your stock options actually end up being worth something, right? Not nothing, but something. But, ultimately how much they're worth is less or the same as what you could have made at a larger company or some megacorp or some big tech company, except you worked for longer hours and you got less benefits. Okay. And then from there, there's maybe like 4% chance that your startup options actually, that you actually get rich from your startup options, and maybe like a 1% chance that you end up being, the first engineer at like a Dropbox or like a Google or something, and you're rich beyond your wildest dreams. But for the most part, the majority of people fall into that 70% bucket. And especially right now during this like dumpster fire of a market where tons and tons of startups are just completely laying off really, really good engineers, that 70% probably seems more like 90%. I used to work for a startup, okay? And I remember to this day when I was thinking of signing the offer for the startup, I was offered 10,000 stock options essentially, right? And I remember the recruiter was trying to sell me so hard that, oh, this startup is going to be a unicorn and it's growing fast and you got to get in now, and the shares are going to be worth $100 because that's in line with what we would expect with this similar company and that similar company. And if you take this offer right now, then you're gonna be well on your way to becoming a millionaire, because $10,000 or 10,000 stock options times $100 is $1 million. Yay! And I was young and I was so excited about the startup, and it's like it didn't even, once I heard that, I was like, all right, so I'm joining this company, right? Okay. Then what happened? Eventually, I found out that in order to actually even have these stock options or whatever that I had originally signed on for, I would have to buy them for $5 a piece. Okay. So before I could even get the benefits of my own startup equity, working day in and day out at this startup, I would have to pay like 50 grand. What? Not only that, but once I paid that 50 grand, it wasn't returnable. Like it's like I paid the 50 grand, and if the startup failed, then the startup failed and I lost 50 grand. If the startup succeeded, then yay, everyone's happy. But no matter what, it was a situation where I had to make a choice to give up a large sum of money, which I actually didn't even have at the time, in order just to get what was like promised to me in the compensation. Now, fast forward to today, that startup's stock is worth absolutely nothing. It's worth like maybe 50 cents or something. And those 10,000 stock options that was supposed to be worth $1 million is worth like maybe like 5 grand. And, you know, thank God I didn't actually pay $50,000 to ultimately end up with stock that would have been worth 5 grand. Okay, I kind of that was definitely a rant for sure. I was kind of went on a roll there, but again, just the general problem that I have with startups today is that it is so easy to radically overestimate the likelihood that your startup will succeed. You know, it's so easy to believe that whatever startup that you really like and that, you know, recruiter really sold you on is going to succeed, when the reality is it could very easily fail. You could very easily get laid off. You could very easily end up spending years and years and years of your life at a company, and the company kind of doesn't really do anything. It doesn't get sold and it doesn't go public, and eventually your options expire or just become really expensive monopoly money. And even in the event that your startup does make it, right, and has some kind of event, whether that is going to the public markets or getting sold, the chances of your stock getting diluted and or you having just really awful liquidation profits is pretty high. You know, like all you have to do is read Hacker News or Venture Hacks to see lists and lists of posts of engineers essentially saying that even after success, their startup, their compensation was, you know, almost worthless. So yeah, I strongly recommend not working for startups, because I strongly believe in not working that hard for any company that could fire you in an instant if they really kind of felt like it. And I think, especially just in general, what I preach is how to get rich without working very hard. So kind of working at a startup in general is very counter to some of my core beliefs about work. Really, what you could do is you could just work for a really large company for a couple years, and then if you really want to work at a startup, just leave that company and start your startup. Okay, if you actually work for a really large corporation or some place in big tech, you're very likely to meet other people who have money, okay, because they actually get paid real salaries with real stock, real publicly traded stock with real money, and they have that to give to you in the event that you want to raise money. A lot of times these people are also just in general really good at working at large corporations and getting hired by large corporations. So you can make a lot of contacts there. And then in the future, they'll be in positions to hire you if you ever need a job again. Whereas if you work for startups, a lot of times you'll meet people who are really, really fanatical about startups, but in general won't have the ability to hire you, because when they leave that startup, maybe they go to another startup that maybe doesn't have enough money yet to hire you, or is not doing so well, etc. Or they just don't have money because they haven't hit it big yet, and so they're, you know, not really sure what to tell you. Like I think I'd work for JP Morgan honestly before I work for a startup. Straight up. In fact, I thought I read the other day that they were even increasing engineer salaries. So yeah, I would definitely work for them, right? Why would you want to work for less money? I don't understand that. I want to work for more money, more money, not less money, more money. Anyway, should you ever work at a startup? I mean, ultimately, these are just my thoughts, and you have to make a decision that's best for you. Thanks so much for hanging out. Please give me a like, a comment if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you in the next one.